How to get your spouse, significant other, anyone into prepping. Hey everybody, this is Michael with Asymmetrical Preparedness. This is a very common question, very often asked question. I guess a lot of people are struggling with this, which sucks. I'm very blessed to have a wife that is completely on board with it, 100%. But how do you get that person into preparedness? First off, slow. Don't go totally crazy. If it's somebody that isn't on board with things like Illuminati, New World Order, all this stuff, then don't talk about that stuff. You're going to throw them for a loop. Don't even use the word prepping if that would, trigger them. I hate that word, trigger. That's like one of those new words. Oh, I'm triggered. Anyway, approach it common sense. One way to go about doing that is things that we have seen, that they have seen in their own eyes, so that you can approach them practically, that they will understand and hopefully be able to get on board with the idea of preparedness. Rising costs, food prices, inflation, shortages at the grocery store, the events of the recent past. There's a lot of things you can talk about. I don't know the person that you are dealing with in this regard, so I don't know how to approach them specifically. I can't tell you what exactly to say to them. But I have wrote down a bunch of ideas and want to talk about a bunch of different things. But before we get into that, please, if you guys haven't yet, please subscribe. Hit that thumbs up, share the videos, comment below, do all those kind of things. And join us over on Patreon. Be one of the cool kids on Team AP. I'm kidding, you're all cool. Anyway, one thing I was thinking was, if they do watch YouTube, and I didn't write this down, this is just off the cuff, just popped in my mind. I haven't seen him put out a video in a while, but Christian at Ice Age Farmer. Now, maybe when he's talking about the grand solar minimum stuff, maybe that's not necessarily the direction to go with the person you're talking about, because that may be over their head or may throw them for a loop. But he brings up a lot of stuff, talks about a lot of things, food shortages around, cullings of animals, a lot of stuff going on that may, I don't know the person you're dealing with, but may strike a chord. But anyway, one thing I wrote down was talk about simplifying your diet, cleaning up your diet, just in overall health, because that's a good thing anyway. But with that, you can approach it from the health aspect or the saving money aspect, or both if you need to. Beans and rice, etc., are inexpensive, much less expensive than some other things. Yes, you can approach it from whatever way you think would be best, but some things you can do to maybe bring them on board with that idea is, if you know how to, or if you don't, learn how to make homemade bread. If you've had it before, oh my gosh, it's amazing. Every time we make homemade bread, it's gone instantly. I mean, we just chow it. It is so much better than store-bought. So do things like that. Show the person you're talking about how good it can be, how yummy it can be. Same with gardening, growing your own garden and raising your own food that tastes way better than the grocery store. That's an avenue of approach into the world of preparedness. Eat more homemade food instead of eating out all the time. If you know how to do it, or if they're the cook, whatever, just encourage more healthy eating, saving money, and enjoying homemade food. Really good. Mention shortages whenever you see them. Say you're the person at the store shopping. Oh, hey, honey, I was when I was shopping, man, it was crazy. They were out of this, and there was like half the selection of this, whatever it may be. And also, don't forget to bring up the prices. Hey, wow, this has gone up a lot. I used to only pay this, now we're paying that. Whenever you do mention the shortages, and or the increased prices, whatever, shortages, better. Mention to them, say, hey, maybe we should pick up a couple extra of, this item or that item because I've seen shortages in the past or they're short of them now, whatever it may be. Don't be that guy that goes in there and buys them all and pisses everybody off, but getting a couple extra. Common sense. It isn't so common anymore, I get it, but try to be as realistic as possible. Another thing you can do is mention that you're willing to give up something that you spend money on regularly for preps. You may not use the word preps, but that you're willing to give up something that's important to you, or maybe it isn't so important to you, but that you could cut corners on to be able to afford setting aside a little extra, just in case. That's one way to approach it. Yeah, just have a little extra on hand. You can bring up the fact like, oh, my grandma always had a pantry, and I remember times when we lost power, or this happened, or that happened, and we went down to the cellar, or whatever it was, the basement, or the pantry, and we just got food to buy the time until we could get to the grocery store, or whatever the situation was. Also, approach it from an angle that is in line with one of their interests. What are they interested in? Approach it that way so you can make it appealing to them. You might be able to kind of trick them into preparing without them even realizing it. Also, what's another good one? Have it be their idea instead of yours, right? Yeah. Oh yeah, that one works pretty well sometimes. Also, you can mention things like, oh, hey, honey, I was thinking about the bills, I was paying the bills, whatever, and we should check on our insurance and make sure that's all up to date, that we don't need anything, stuff like that, our car insurance, homeowners insurance, life insurance, and then be like, oh, it's weird how they call it life insurance, because it's not life insurance, it's death insurance. What about having living insurance? We have insurance for all these different things, but we don't have insurance that will eat. We don't have insurance that will drink. We don't have insurance that we will be able to survive a tornado, a hurricane, an earthquake, some more shortages. That may work. Emergency fund also. If you're talking about, you can bring up the topic of emergency fund. If you have one, hopefully you do, it's always good to have. And you can mention the fact that, emergency fund really gives you peace of mind, because then you don't have emergencies. If something happens and you got to spend money on it, you pull it out of the emergency fund, you use it, and then you build the emergency fund back up. Prepping and food storage is an emergency fund. You might be able to approach it from that angle also. I'm trying to think of as many angles as possible so that you can, because I can't tell you exactly what to say, but if I can give you a bunch of different angles to try, then maybe it'll help you out. Like I say a lot, make prepping fun. Find activities, think of activities, do activities that are fun where you can spend time together, build your relationship, strengthen your relationship, yet still applies to preparedness. Maybe it's exercise. Maybe you can work out together. Maybe you can go hiking together, biking together, kayaking together, whatever. Hunting, fishing, whatever it may be. Another way is if the other person we're talking about here is into something that does have preparedness, if it does play into a preparedness, or it can be beneficial in the prepping world, then join them in it. If it's something you don't normally do, like say you're a woman and your husband enjoys hunting and you never go. Well, maybe join him. Go out there with him. See what it's like. And then talk about building relationships. And then have him join you on something that you're interested in that can apply to prepping, or just something you come up with that can apply to prepping. and ask him or her, whatever, vice versa, whatever, to join you on that. So you can build relationships, you can slowly get preparedness into your way of life. Yes, incorporate it into your activities. It's good at sometimes, if they're not on board with it, to get them into prepping in such a way that they don't even realize they're doing it. Don't throw out labels like preps, prepper, prepping, food storage. Talk about having a little extra on hand. Or, hey, I want to make a bunch of this or bake a bunch of this or something like that. So let's get some extra, and then, maybe I'll do it next month or next week. And so let's get a little extra from then just in case the store doesn't have or they're short on it or something like that. This is what I'm trying to think. Set the example yourself. Like in anything. If it's fitness, then do it. If it's whatever it may be, whatever you're doing, set a good example yourself. Yes, activities to do together. This is important for relationship building and for your overall health, if it's fitness related, and for becoming more prepared. Try to pick activities that have applications in preparedness. Maybe mention, if you know of somebody that got hurt lately or something like that, and you'd be like, well, with everything going on and stuff like that, what I've heard is 911 doesn't really respond that quickly. So what happens if, I cut myself or something like that and I'm home alone? How do I take care of it? Hey, honey, let's take a medical class together. Let's take a first aid class. I mean, they're free, first aid, American Red Cross, or like a Stop the Bleed class or something like that. Or suggest a new hobby, a new activity that's a hobby, like getting into ham radio, or tactical stuff, or hiking. Foraging is a good one. Be like, oh, hey, I heard these people, go out and they forage and stuff like that, and I've heard there's actually a lot of wild, edible things out there. Let's learn about it, and let's go out into the woods and try to find it. But being careful, of course, and making sure that you're not eating anything that's bad. Make sure it's actually edible, of course. But these are some ideas I thought about because I know a lot of people are struggling with this. And so it's very important to talk about it and to talk about it often because the question keeps getting asked. I hear about it on other channels. I see it in comments. I see it in emails all over the place. A lot of people are struggling with this. I hope that some of these ideas, some of these angles, some of these approaches will help you. I really hope they do. It's very important to have the people in your life that you care about at least okay with preparedness. At least okay with the fact that they don't have to be a super prepper. They don't have to be necessarily like gung-ho, hey, like proactive about it. As long as they're supportive of you. That's the basics. If you can get them gung-ho about it, awesome. That's really good. One thing you can do, just popped in my mind, when you're out on an activity, hiking or whatever it is you're doing, you can be identifying bug out locations while you're there. And routes. And incorporate it all. Just have fun with it. And just try. Don't give up. Don't give up on the person you're trying to get into preparedness. Just keep at it. Keep it common sense. Keep it simple. And make it fun. I love you guys. Have a wonderful day. And blessings to you and yours.